Somewhere out there, this ship crossed an invisible, mysterious line in the ocean, causing us to lose an entire day, 24 hours just gone. One passenger's birthday simply disappeared. I will explain later what caused this. Ahead of us was the last international port of this journey before the long road back to Japan. This is Samoa. After a couple days of sailing, we reached our last international destination on this peaceboat journey. That means that the whole voyage is almost coming to an end. We reach the Polynesian islands of independent Samoa, not to be confused with American Samoa, which is under US rule. Let's go and explore. For the entire trip, we'd been nudging the clocks back an hour every time we crossed into a new time zone, chasing the sun westward around the planet. But getting to Samoa meant crossing something bigger than a time zone, the international date line itself. In a single moment, we went from being 12 hours ahead of Greenwich time to 12 hours behind it. An entire calendar day was gone. One passenger on board had her entire birthday erased completely by the crossing. It simply never happened. The ship, in true peaceboat fashion, turned the crossing into an event. Let's get our March 1st back. A sped-up reenactment of an entire day's schedule crammed into an hour. Self-organized event sign-ups. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Japanese class.
今日はすごく簡単なやつを教えたいと思います。豚が豚をぶったらぶたれた豚がぶった豚をぶったのでぶった豚とぶたれた豚がぶった豚。
A port arrival talk, this time about the speaker's own hometown, all performed back to back at triple speed, just to give that lost day a proper send-off. Crossing the line, going the other direction, and you get the opposite phenomenon, the same day twice. Somewhere out there, someone gets to have two birthdays in one crossing. We were not that lucky. Independent Samoa itself is made up of 10 islands, 5 of them inhabited, home to roughly 225,000 people. Most live on Upolu, the smaller of the two main islands, where the capital Apia is located. The larger island, Savaii, holds a smaller share of the population. Further east, a separate cluster of islands is governed by the United States and known as American Samoa. Same name, different flag. Different date on the calendar most of the days, due to the international date line going right in between independent and American Samoa. Because East and West Samoa are on opposite sides of the date line, families split across the border often end up celebrating Christmas, New Year's, and birthdays twice over. A strange reality there. Before we arrived, the ship hosted a lecture that was intense. A talk on human trafficking in Japan, centered on Tokyo's Ikebukuro district. It focused on the Yakuza's role in trafficking, particularly the way vulnerable young women are drawn into dependency and debt, and then forced into the sex trade. The speaker referenced the story of a Colombian woman, Marcela Loaiza, who wrote a memoir about surviving exactly this. She was lured to Japan in 1999 with the promise of dance work at the age of 21. On arrival, her passport was taken, and she was told she owed money for the flight, a debt she could only repay by working as a prostitute, with a portion of her earnings going towards Yakuza protection. She eventually escaped to the Colombian embassy and made it home, later becoming a high-class escort simply to survive before choosing for her daughter's sake, to leave that life behind entirely. She went through therapy, published her story, and became an advocate for other survivors. The lecture didn't shy away from the uncomfortable parts, how authorities have at times allowed this to continue, and how many young women are drawn in through a similar pattern of debt to a host, repaid the only way they're told is possible. It's the same topic covered in films like Sound of Freedom and Kids of the Darkness. It was a heavy talk to sit with, but important to be made aware of. A reminder that a voyage built around human rights as one of its pillars has room and the responsibility to look at the darker threads woven through our societies. On a lighter note, the ship threw a blooming carnival celebration out on the open deck. Dance performances, drum shows, people in traditional Japanese dress, and everyone singing together under the open sky. Later that evening, the Wheelhouse Bar had its own charm. Modern songs reimagined on classical instruments. The kind of atmosphere that makes you want to just sit back with a drink and let the ocean do the rest. Before we set foot on the island, we had a talk on Samoan culture from guest speaker Cherie Stalin. Fa'a Samoa, literally Samoan way of life, is a 3,000-year-old way of life, not a tradition observed occasionally, but a code that runs through daily existence. Under it, village chieftains can call on individual families to contribute to the wider community, donating a pig for a wedding, for instance, with communal welfare consistently placed above individual wants. It shapes family duty, social behavior, and how the islands govern themselves, all at once. Then, after a few days of sailing, we arrived. Our tour guide gave us some details as we drove around the island. Samoa's roughly 225,000 people trace their presence on these islands back some 3,500 years. The first European contact came in 1722, when the Dutch sailor Jacob Roggeveen sighted the islands. The very same sailor who, that same year, became the first European to reach Easter Island, a place we'd visited earlier on the same journey. Samoa's colonial history moved from first German control to then New Zealand control before independence arrived in 1962, making it the first Pacific Island nation to achieve it. In 2021, Samoa elected its first female prime minister, and in a detail that says something about how family works here, Samoans traditionally bury loved ones in their own backyards, keeping them close, permanently, rather than in a separate cemetery. German colonizers, by most accounts, were relatively respectful of local customs, while British New Zealand rule that followed from 1914 was administered with a heavier hand. In 1918, a major influenza crisis spreading from a New Zealand ship killed about 20% of the Samoan population. There was an increasing resistance from Samoans against the harsh colonial rule. In 1929, on a day now called Black Saturday, New Zealand police fired machine guns into an unarmed crowd, killing 11 Samoans. In 2002, the New Zealand Prime Minister traveled to Samoa to apologize for the injustices under their rule. Christian missionaries arrived early and left a permanent mark. Nearly every place we visited on this peaceboat voyage has carried some trace of that same missionary reach, and Samoa is no exception. It's now overwhelmingly Christian, layered on what was once a spirit-based belief system. Modern Samoa runs on three main sources of income: tourism, deep-sea fishing, and remittances. Money sent home by families working abroad, often to help cover the cost of something as significant as a funeral. The islands know only two seasons, wet and dry, with the wet season running from November through May and bringing the risk of hurricanes. The last major one striking in 2012. Every traditional Samoan home includes an open, temple-like communal space set aside purely for meetings and gatherings. There are some issues that our tour guide highlighted. Diabetes rates here, and even more so in American Samoa, run remarkably high, affecting about 1 in every 4 people. Sex education remains a cultural taboo, and the island carries troubling rates of rape and teenage pregnancy. And walking along the roadside, I was struck by just how much trash, cans, bottles, packaging had simply been left along the way. Peaceboat's arrival, meanwhile, had apparently been covered on local radio and television for weeks beforehand, a reminder of just how significant a single ship's visit can be to a place this size. We landed squarely in the middle of wet season, and the islands did not hold back. Umbrellas and rain jackets earned their value every hour we were ashore. But the rain had its upside. Samoa's waterfalls, already plentiful, were running at full, thunderous force. Some of the larger ones were genuinely breathtaking to stand in front of, swollen with days of steady rainfall. At a local market, I tried breadfruit for the first time, a strange, satisfying cross between bread and potato, grown on a round fruit that looks nothing like either. Locals also demonstrated the process of extracting coconut cream by hand.
So the water is a bit brackish. It's sweet, but not as sweet as the young one. You can taste it.
这个老椰子的椰子水也是甜的，但是它会把那个椰子肉给刮下来。
So there.
Squeezing fresh coconut flesh into something rich and which often ends up on a Samoan dinner table. But the moment that defined the day was the To Sua Trench, a natural saltwater swimming hole roughly 30 meters deep, carved out by lava flows thousands of years ago. The name translates fittingly to giant swimming hole. Getting down to the water means climbing a long, steep wooden ladder that tests your nerve a little. But at the bottom, the reward is immediate. Water so crystal clear it looks lit from within, fed through hidden tunnels connected to the open Pacific, all of it framed by lush nature. Swimming inside it felt less like a tourist stop and more like being inside a hidden, separate world. That was our story on Samoa. Up next, we're sailing the longest uninterrupted stretch of ocean that we have done on this entire journey, for 11 days just on the water, from Samoa back to Japan. That means our circumnavigation will have come full circle. Join me on this last stretch of the Peaceboat. Take care.